This video is for project 1.2.3a, the Hobby Organizer Design. You'll be able to access this information from our Canvas site, Design and Modeling class. So this project is going to come after doing the Design Squad video and looking at how those teams have created their artifact for their challenge and go through the design process. So we're going to practice doing that ourselves on this. So now that we know the design process needed for an engineer or a designer to create an invention or innovation, let's practice the process by designing an organizer for your favorite hobby. Can you imagine if that's all the information that you were given for an assignment? Engineers must understand the problem that they need to solve, as well as the criteria and constraints that they must meet. Therefore, they use a design brief to identify the problem, the expectations, and the constraints. The design brief is necessary in order to complete the first step, which is defining the problem in the design process. Once the problem is defined, the engineering team can continue with the design process, knowing that they may have to go back to the beginning and redefine the problem at any point during the process. Remember, the design process is never finished. We can always innovate a product to make improvements or to better understand the needs of today. So for this activity, you and a partner will design an organizer for your favorite hobby. If you're absent, then you'll need to do this by yourself. Maybe you'd like to shop and you need an organizer for your purse. Maybe you like to play football and you need an organizer to carry your equipment and ball. Maybe you like to play video games and you need an organizer for your games, or maybe you like to collect jewelry and need an organizer for that jewelry. Later in the design and modeling unit, you'll continue the design process by modeling the organizer using a 3D modeling software. We're not going to do that. We're going to be working on some other things. So you're going to need to decide on a hobby, one that has stuff that you can organize. So it could be for sports or some other kind of activity. But the first step is for us to define the problem with our design brief, which we'll look at here in a moment. So in class, we would go over the design brief and explain what that is, and that's what we're going to do here in our video. So that's step one here. So if we go on to our page with the design brief chart, we're going to first be filling out these three parts: the client, the designer, and the problem statement. So in your presentation material, there is a PowerPoint that will have the information that we're going to go over here. And so we're going to use this design brief, which is a concise document that identifies the client, clearly states his or her problem or need, and identifies the degree which the engineer will carry out the solution, and lists the rules and limits within which the engineer must perform. So basically, it's telling us what the problem is and what the designer needs to do to fix this problem. So the design brief is basically an agreement between the client and the engineer. So it's a form that looks like this, and it shows what needs to be done in order to solve the problem, the things that the client needs that designer to do, and then it tells what the designer is going to do to help this client. So the client is usually a person, a company, organization, or target group who gets that talent of that engineer to help them solve their problem. So the designer is going to be the person who's the problem solver. And then the problem statement comes from the person who is the client. And an example of a good problem statement is from a student, high school student, and they say, "My school locker is a mess. I can never find a pen, pencil, or calculator. My homework is always getting lost. My lunch gets crushed under a sea of books and binders. Because of the clutter, it's hard to close my locker door completely." So basically, we write it as a story problem. So what you're going to do is with your sheet, you're going to fill out a, a hobby that you decide on. It has to have things that you can organize. So we're organizing equipment, supplies, whatever things we need for that hobby. We're going to put down who the client is. So you can make up someone, you can use one of your friends' names, it could be a company. So we need who's getting our services. So we're going to be the designers. So you put your name in this box here. And then finally, for the problem statement, you're going to write that client's problem. So in this case, we have a student who has a problem with their locker and organizing it, and they tell us what things they have a problem with. So we have things like a pen, a pencil, a calculator that need to get organized. We have a lunch that's in the locker. We have books and binders that are in a locker. We have so much stuff that it's hard to close the locker because all the stuff is falling out. So there's certain things that need to be done. So this statement should say what the problem is, and it should state what things need to get organized is what we're looking to write here. So something similar to this student. So once you have completed this step, then we'll look at the other steps that need to get done on the design brief sheet.